What's going on, everyone? I'm Jaren, and today we are talking about obsession. After breaking the mysterious one-wish willow to win his crush's heart, a hopeless romantic finds himself getting exactly what he asked for, but soon discovers that some desires come at a dark and sinister cost. This is written and directed by Curry Barker, a film school dropout who expresses a lot of his talent and art on YouTube, ranging between comedy sketches to horror shorts. He also gets to work alongside his roommate and also fellow actor, producer, and writer Cooper Tomlinson, who also dropped out with him, and they ended up labeling their channel after their dual collaboration, That's a Bad Idea. Now, I haven't had the chance to fully dive into their library of shorts, but in 2024, their 1 hour found footage feature, Milk and Cereal, went viral. And everyone in the horror community was talking about it. Even my buddy Alex, who's not big on horror, just kept recommending me this one. And I ended up finally checking it out after a few months passed. And I gotta say, I was floored. I must have watched it like 3 times, and I kept thinking to myself, what if we got a full-length feature from this team? I think that the universe heard me before I even spoke the words, but not even about a year later that they started dropping announcements that Curry Barker was going to be making his first feature-length debut at the TIFF Film Festival. The reception was hyperbolically positive, and as happy and supportive as I was for another YouTuber to break it to the big screen, I was a little nervous as to be hyped for a movie that was going to be divided by the masses by the time it fully releases. I mean, take a look at the debut of Chris Stuckman and Markiplier. Everyone was just very supportive, but also those movies also got torn apart by just various and silly reasons. And I just want to show up and support no matter what. And I gotta say, after finally seeing this movie for myself, consider me obsessed. If you enjoyed what Barker did with Milk and Cereal, you are going to love this. I cannot begin to describe the roller coaster of emotions that were just surging through my body, the audible reactions that not just came from Leanne and I, but came from the entire auditorium. Being scared is one thing, but I have never felt this uncomfortable and rattled by a movie to a degree where there were various jumps and uncanny images that I couldn't process in the moment, and I instantly responded with laughter. It's a little difficult to describe without spoiling it, but the best way that I can describe it is it's more of a panic attack than your conventional jump scare. Curry Barker, you sick son of a bitch. Every ounce of care put into this movie shows you that he's a fan of horror, that he craves what the audience yearns for from this genre. And when it comes to the script, he has a way of making you care about characters that are relatable and flawed. I mean, there are moments where you just want to reach out and yell at them for making such terrible decisions because you care. And you also kind of get into their headspace about said emotions, about wanting them to accept or deny certain choices. Whether a group of friends are deciding to go out drinking, karaokeing, talk about going to college, gossiping, or making a wish on a conspicuous gag gift. And those are little details, little building blocks to go a long way in fleshing out our main characters. I mean, it is presented as a teen dramedy, but also serves as a critique on romantic tropes, only to simply twist it into something a lot more darker, more tragic, and finally, expectingly and subvertingly horrific, all in the name of love. On the technical side of things, the cinematography was superb, and not in the way that you'd expect it for a camera to be doing trick shots, but it's the way that they set up each and every frame to engage in the viewer's attention. When the One Wish Willow breaks, Nikki has a way of moving very unnaturally, and the way that she would kind of come into focus or distort herself, or the way that she'd be lurking in the backdrop was brilliantly creepy. It wasn't a makeup effect, it wasn't a prosthetic, but it was the lighting and the way that they would hide the details of her face in shadows and silhouettes during her more infatuated deliveries really muddled a lot of that affection and terror as one. Another great example would have to be the bedroom scene where Bear wakes up in the middle of the night, Nikki is nowhere to be found, and she is in the corner of the dark, acknowledging that she just loves watching him sleep. At first, I was chuckling at how much of that context reminded me of Twilight, but the way that entire scene plays out felt like Insidious. The sound design was incredibly effective, certainly the cherry on top to racking up a lot of anxiety, even pushing it a step further with the more blood-curdling startles. I felt really bad for our head editor and critic Barry Wurst, who got the brunt of it, being at the very front of the auditorium. The original score by Rock Burwell, it had a very soothing and relaxing synth to it, while blending just a lot of the tension and the panic during the more drastic tonal shifts, almost like Silent Hill. For Barker to be the editor of his own movie is creative admiration because he knows what works and what flows. He chooses scenes for what the viewers should briefly grasp onto and what to stew in, all serving purpose in the narrative and the pacing. I mean, there was this one particular scene that he had to significantly trim down or else it would have earned the picture an NC-17 rating. And after checking that moment out, I could not imagine that shocking scene being any longer. Finally, getting into some of the talent here, we've got Ian, who is played by Cooper Tomlinson, Curry Barker's friend and collaborator in real life. And he is that particular coworker, that comic relief, that friend of Bear's, who is some of the third party that you might disagree with, but also understands. I've had friends like Ian before, and it was a little easy to kind of figure out his motivations as well as just the direction they were taking his character without actually spelling it flat out for the audience. We've also got the character of Sarah, played by Megan Lawless, and what an absolute sweetheart. And although she is the one friend in the group that is completely left in the dark for mostly of what's going on, they make a lot of her screen time count. And she's more than just a pretty face. I mean, how integral her character becomes eventually makes an effective transition into the third act. Our lead character, Bear, who's played by Michael Johnston, the first time he shows up on screen, I was getting a lot of Rohan Campbell meets Peter Parker kind of vibes. And every teenager has pretty much walked in his shoes, whether it comes down to having a crush or being in love with someone who only views you as a friend or is pretty much oblivious to your existence. Bear could easily be viewed as the villain of this movie, a Dr. Frankenstein, if you will, when it comes down to how he handles the monkey paw situation, how he navigates his relationship with Nikki. I mean, there's never a black or white when it comes down to these characters, but morally condemned with the way that they are just middling in this gray area. And Johnson has a way with commanding the screen in a much more quieter and subtle side, where it is heavily complemented by the frequent amount of fear and reaction when it comes down to his co-lead's just powerhouse performance.
Let me illustrate. A girl is allowed to be crazy as long as she is equally hot. Thus, if she's this crazy, she has to be this hot. If she's this crazy, she has to be this hot. You want a girl to be above this line, also known as the Vicky Mendoza diagonal. This girl I dated, she played jump rope with that line. She'd shave her head, then lose 10 pounds. She'd stab me with a fork, then get a boob job. I should give her a call.
Last but not least, the breakup performance that everyone has been buzzing about as the next Scream Queen, as our next Oscar contender, Indy Navarrete as Nikki. And like Mia Goth in Pearl, like Florence Pugh in Midsommar, like Kathy Bates in Misery, like Isabel Adjani in Possession, Navarrete raises the bar in her performance and obliterates every emotion on the spectrum, basically inhabiting three characters as one. I mean, whether it's the movie or in real life, I mean, who wouldn't have a crush on Navarrete? I mean, the girl has such a fierce and warm personality and is just drop-dead gorgeous, but the inflections on her line deliveries, her facial expressions, her unpredictable but physically demanding movements just left me so unnerved the entire time. Achieving sexy, hysterical, and nightmarish is an impossible combination to come by. And what you are left with the character of Nikki in the dark is just so crushing, frightening, heartbreaking, and quite moving. I cannot wait to see Navarrete's career blossom after she gets all the accolades that she deserves here. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if DC offered her an opportunity to play Harley Quinn. Overall, Obsession is reinvigorating, wickedly haunting, hysterically disturbing, deliciously tantalizing, uncanny nightmare fuel, and an absolute knockout. I can see a lot of people after this taking a lot of the screen caps from this movie and turning them into memes. I can see a lot of people being awkward and cringy every single time their partner decides to say something sweet or be affectionate in any way. And I can see a lot of people double checking their sandwiches before they take a bite. Barker has definitely cemented his voice and his vision in horror, and I honestly can't wait to see what he has next. I think he just started wrapping up on his latest project, which is going to star Aaron Paul and Bryce Dallas Howard, and he also got penned to reboot the Texas Chainsaw Massacre with A24, so that's going to be exciting. Um, This cautionary tale of toxic codependency is not just one of the best horror pictures of the year, but is personally my favorite film of 2026. Well, alright guys, that's all I got to share about that movie. Go ahead and check it out if you want. Look forward to more reviews. I'm Jaren, but now I'm going to want to thank you guys again for taking some time out of your day to hear me talk some movies. I'll see you guys at the theater, and in the meantime, I love this movie so.